He always exchanged words with everybody because it didn't matter what anybody was doing in and around the estate here and everywhere else. They all meant a lot to him, and he always took a very personal interest in everything that they were doing.
Sophie has finally broken her silence on Meghan, and the reaction has people talking everywhere. For years, the Duchess of Edinburgh kept things calm, stayed diplomatic, smiled through the pressure, and appeared determined to keep royal tensions far away from the spotlight. While speculation swirled around the family from every direction, Sophie rarely stepped into the drama publicly. But now, a wave of documentaries, royal books, and insider reports has brought old stories back into focus, and the picture being painted is raising plenty of eyebrows. A major Channel 5 documentary, along with several high-profile royal accounts, has taken a closer look at Sophie's position within the monarchy and her relationships with newer members of the royal family. According to these reports, there were efforts behind the scenes to help Meghan Markle adjust to royal life, but those efforts may not have unfolded as many expected. The claims have sparked fresh debate about what really happened during Meghan's early years as a working royal. One of the biggest talking points centres on an offer Sophie reportedly made to Meghan, and why that story continues to attract attention years later. To understand why this issue has resurfaced, it's important to look at what Sophie allegedly offered, and how the situation was later described by royal commentators and insiders. A documentary titled Royal Peacemaker, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, which aired on Channel 5 on the 16th of May 2026, explores the supportive role Sophie reportedly played in helping Kate Middleton adapt to life inside the royal institution. The programme also discusses claims that Meghan Markle was offered similar guidance but chose a different path. That detail quickly became one of the most discussed moments from the documentary. The programme goes beyond simple praise and instead examines Sophie's long journey within the monarchy, including the obstacles she faced and the lessons she learned over the years. Meghan's name comes up several times as commentators discuss the challenges faced by those marrying into the royal family. Royal commentator Emily Andrews explained that Sophie reached out to both Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle with an offer to provide support and share her experience. When she saw younger members marrying into the royal family, she was very happy to offer to be a mentor of sorts, Andrews stated, adding that Sophie had experienced many of the pressures that come with royal life. That background matters because Sophie did not have a flawless start herself. After marrying Prince Edward in 1999, she faced several early challenges, including a highly publicised public relations controversy involving a tabloid sting operation. Those experiences, according to supporters, gave her valuable insight that she hoped could help others avoid similar difficulties. However, Sophie's story inside the royal family did not end with those early setbacks. Over time, she rebuilt her reputation, earned respect across the institution, and became one of the monarchy's most trusted figures. Many royal observers point to her steady approach, discretion, and years of experience as reasons why she became someone newer members of the family could comfortably turn to for advice. Because of everything she had experienced, Sophie reportedly felt she had useful lessons to share. According to reports cited by The Sun, she was more than willing to help Meghan Markle navigate the complicated world of royal life. One royal insider claimed that Sophie and Meghan spent several hours together discussing a wide range of topics related to royal duties, family expectations, and life under intense public scrutiny. The source suggested that Meghan arrived with plenty of questions, and that Sophie openly shared her experiences. Having gone through the difficult transition from private citizen to working royal herself, Sophie allegedly understood many of the challenges Meghan was facing. According to the insider, Sophie wanted to be supportive and make herself available if Meghan ever needed guidance in the future. Sophie found Meghan likable and engaging, and she told her she could call any time she needed advice about dealing with some of the trickier royals, the insider reportedly stated. At the time, the conversation was said to be positive, friendly, and encouraging. From the outside, it appeared to be the beginning of a useful connection between two women who had both faced the enormous pressures that come with joining one of the world's most famous families. But according to the same account, that expected relationship never fully developed. The insider claimed there was surprise behind the scenes when no further contact followed after their lengthy discussions. After spending hours sharing advice and personal experiences, Sophie allegedly never received additional requests for guidance. Whether that reflected different approaches, different priorities, or simply circumstances changing over time remains a subject of debate among royal commentators. The source also claimed that no return invitation was received for further private discussions at Frogmore Cottage, where Meghan and Prince Harry were living at the time. According to that account, the connection that seemed promising during those early conversations did not progress much further. The reports have since become one of the more talked about details whenever discussions arise about Meghan's early months within the royal family. The documentary places particular attention on the contrast between different experiences inside the monarchy. According to the programme, Sophie extended support to newer family members as they adjusted to royal life. The film suggests that those relationships developed in different ways, and it uses those differences to explore how individual choices and circumstances can shape royal journeys. One of the clearest comparisons presented involves Kate and Meghan. The documentary highlights Sophie's long-standing relationship with Kate Middleton and points to it as an example of a mentorship that steadily grew stronger over time. Through public appearances, shared engagements, and years of interaction, the bond between the two women became increasingly visible. Royal peacemaker, Sophie. Duchess of Edinburgh follows Sophie's path from her marriage to Prince Edward in 1999, through her rise to becoming one of the monarchy's most dependable figures. The film portrays her as someone younger royals could look to for guidance while learning the traditions, expectations, and pressures of royal life. Royal correspondent Victoria Murphy describes Sophie as a natural mentor for Kate in many ways, pointing to both public and private examples of support. According to commentators featured in the documentary, Sophie gradually became a trusted source of advice for Kate, and their connection has continued to strengthen over the years, becoming one of the most stable and closely watched relationships within the royal family today. Picture what that relationship reportedly looked like behind the scenes. Over the years, Sophie and Kate were frequently seen together at major royal events, standing side by side during important occasions and appearing increasingly comfortable in each other's company. Royal watchers often pointed to their body language, shared conversations, and easy rapport as signs of a strong and genuine connection. What started as guidance for a newcomer eventually appeared to grow into one of the most respected partnerships within the royal family. According to many royal commentators, Kate took time to learn the traditions, expectations, and responsibilities that came with her role. As the years passed, she developed a reputation for consistency, professionalism, and careful preparation. Supporters of Sophie often argue that her advice and experience may have played a valuable role in helping Kate find her footing during those early years. Some observers even describe this influence as the Sophie effect, because of how closely the two women became associated over time. The documentary places significant attention on this relationship, portraying Sophie as a steady source of support for Catherine, now the Princess of Wales. Commentators featured in the programme describe Sophie as someone who understood the pressures of royal life and who was willing to share what she had learned through decades of experience. According to the documentary, that support became especially valuable as Catherine adjusted to the intense public attention and responsibilities that came with her growing role inside the monarchy. But as the documentary moves from Catherine's story to Meghan Markle's, the discussion takes on a noticeably different tone. The programme revisits claims that Sophie reached out early and offered assistance to Meghan as she began her own royal journey. Royal commentator Emily Andrews stated that Sophie met with Meghan and made it clear that she was available to help if needed. According to Andrews, Sophie reportedly told Meghan, "Anything I can do, anything I can help with, let me know." The documentary presents this as an open invitation from someone who had already navigated many of the challenges Meghan was about to face. Andrews also noted that Sophie was reportedly surprised when no further relationship developed, and that she was never invited back to Frogmore Cottage, where Prince Harry and Meghan were living at the time. Within royal circles, documentaries and commentators often emphasize how much value is placed on personal relationships, trust, and access. Because of that, the situation has continued to attract attention years later. Some observers view it as evidence of differing approaches to royal life, while others argue that the full story remains unknown. Regardless of interpretation, the documentary presents it as an important moment that helps shape perceptions on both sides. The film also highlights Sophie's standing within the royal family and why her offer of support was viewed as particularly significant. Former Press Secretary Elsa Anderson described Sophie's relationship with the late Queen by saying, "I think the late Queen saw Sophie as a safe pair of hands. She could always be relied upon." That reputation for reliability and discretion is repeatedly emphasized throughout the documentary. According to royal commentators featured in the program, Sophie was not simply another senior royal offering advice. She was widely regarded as one of the late Queen's most trusted family members and a respected figure within the institution. Because of that status, the documentary argues that her outreach carried considerable weight, making the reported lack of a lasting connection an especially notable part of the story that continues to generate discussion today. The documentary never directly tells viewers what conclusion they should reach. Instead, it places different relationships, decisions, and moments side by side and allows the comparisons to speak for themselves. That approach has become one of the most discussed aspects of the program, especially when attention turns to the fallout from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's highly publicized interview with Oprah Winfrey. For many royal observers, this chapter remains one of the most dramatic and controversial periods in recent royal history. The events that followed sparked headlines across the world, fueled endless debate, and placed enormous pressure on the monarchy. Years later, people are still dissecting what was said, how it was received, and what various members of the royal family may have been trying to communicate through their public responses. The background is important. In March 2021, Harry and Meghan sat down with Oprah Winfrey for an interview that quickly became global news. During the discussion, the couple made a series of serious allegations regarding their experiences within the royal institution. The interview generated intense public conversation and prompted reactions from politicians, commentators, journalists, and royal supporters around the world. For weeks, it dominated headlines and became one of the most talked about royal stories in modern times. Not long after the interview aired, Sophie and Prince Edward participated in a separate media appearance. During that interview, they were asked about the Sussexes' conversation with Oprah. What happened next would attract widespread attention and become a memorable talking point for years afterward. When questioned about the Oprah interview, Prince Edward responded, "Oprah, who?" Sophie then laughed and added, "What interview?" The exchange was brief, lasting only a few seconds, but it immediately caught the attention of viewers, reporters, and royal commentators. Despite consisting of only a handful of words, the moment generated extensive discussion about what message, if any, was being conveyed. Supporters of Edward and Sophie viewed the exchange as light-hearted humour and an attempt to avoid adding fuel to an already intense media storm. Critics, however, interpreted it differently, arguing that it reflected a dismissive attitude toward the controversy surrounding the interview. As with many royal stories, reactions varied dramatically depending on who was analysing the moment. Regardless of interpretation, the exchange quickly spread across newspapers, television broadcasts, and social media platforms. It became one of those rare royal moments that seemed small at first, but continued to resurface whenever discussions about Harry, Meghan, and the royal family emerged. Even years later, commentators were still referencing those 8 words and debating what they really meant. The incident later appeared in Omid Scobie's book Endgame, where he examined tensions within the royal family and reactions to the Sussexes' departure from royal duties. Scobie referenced the exchange directly, writing, "The comments about the world's most successful black woman and one of the biggest faces in entertainment made them seem stuffy or tin-eared at best, and casually bigoted at worst." He continued, "What may seem like a trivial episode by itself, Sophie's Oprah gaffe is yet another page to add to the history of recent screw-ups. Those comments added another layer of controversy to an already heavily debated moment and ensured that the exchange remained part of the broader conversation surrounding the Sussex story. Whether readers agree with Scobie's assessment or reject it entirely, the fact that the moment received so much attention is revealing in itself. A short joke, a brief laugh, and a few words spoken in passing became the subject of years of analysis. That alone demonstrates how closely every royal comment is examined, and how quickly seemingly minor interactions can take on larger, symbolic meaning. Many royal commentators argue that public figures often choose their words carefully during periods of controversy, particularly when cameras are rolling and global audiences are watching. Others believe the exchange was simply a spontaneous response that became over-analysed after the fact. The documentary does not attempt to settle that debate. Instead, it presents the moment as another example of how different members of the royal family responded during one of the most turbulent chapters in modern royal history, leaving viewers to draw their own conclusions about what was really being communicated behind those 8 unforgettable words. By the time 2021 arrived, the relationship stories surrounding Meghan Markle and the royal family had already become the subject of intense public discussion. Several years had passed since Meghan joined the monarchy. Prince Harry and Meghan had stepped away from royal duties, and media coverage surrounding the family had reached levels rarely seen before. Against that backdrop, many royal commentators began looking more closely at earlier interactions and asking what they might reveal about relationships behind palace walls. For some observers, the now famous Oprah exchange became a symbol of how certain senior royals were responding to the growing controversy surrounding Harry and Meghan. Whether viewed as a joke, a dismissal, or simply an attempt to avoid further drama, the moment remained part of the public conversation long after it first occurred. As tensions continued to make headlines, interpretations of that brief exchange only grew stronger. Then came another major flashpoint, the publication of Omid Scobie's book, Endgame. The book reignited debate across royal circles and generated fresh headlines around the world. Its claims, observations, and criticisms sparked strong reactions from supporters and critics alike, creating yet another chapter in an already highly public royal dispute. According to reports cited by The Sun, one senior royal who was particularly unhappy with some of the book's claims was Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. Sources quoted by the publication alleged that Sophie was deeply upset by how she was portrayed and by suggestions made about her conduct. The reports described her reaction as one of genuine frustration rather than simple irritation, highlighting just how sensitive the issue had become. Those reports attracted attention because Sophie has spent much of her royal career building a reputation for reliability, professionalism, and discretion. After overcoming highly publicised challenges earlier in her time as a royal, she gradually became one of the monarchy's most respected working members. Many royal observers frequently point to her loyalty and steady approach as key reasons for her strong standing within the institution today. By the time she received the title of Duchess of Edinburgh, Sophie was widely viewed as an experienced and trusted figure within the royal family. Because of that reputation, claims questioning her character or intentions naturally attracted significant attention. Supporters argued that such portrayals conflicted sharply with the public image she had built over decades of royal service. One of the most controversial claims discussed in connection with Endgame involved events surrounding Queen Elizabeth II's state funeral in September 2022. Scobie wrote about interactions involving Meghan, Sophie, Queen Camilla, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, suggesting that Meghan was ignored during a highly visible public moment. The allegation quickly became a major talking point because of the enormous global audience watching the funeral ceremonies. The funeral was one of the most closely followed royal events in recent memory. Millions of people around the world watched every procession, appearance, and interaction. News organizations analyzed footage frame by frame, while royal commentators debated even the smallest details. In that environment, any claim about personal interactions between senior royals was almost guaranteed to generate widespread attention and speculation. Because of the significance of the occasion, the allegations carried considerable weight and became the subject of extensive discussion across newspapers, television programs, and social media. However, reports indicated that Sophie's team rejected those claims. According to those responses, the Oprah exchange had been intended as a joke rather than a serious statement, and the broader interpretations that followed were disputed by those close to the Duchess. As with many stories involving the royal family, competing narratives quickly emerged. Supporters, critics, journalists, and commentators all offered different interpretations of the events. What remains clear is that the debate surrounding Endgame, Sophie's role, and her relationship with Meghan became another major chapter in a saga that continues to generate headlines and strong opinions years later. However, instead of responding publicly to every headline, rumor, or criticism, Sophie chose a very different path. Rather than holding emotional interviews, launching public rebuttals, or engaging in a back and forth through the media, she continued focusing on her royal duties. While commentators debated controversies and books generated fresh headlines, Sophie largely remained focused on engagements, charitable work, and official appearances. Many royal observers have pointed to this approach as one of the defining features of her public image. Throughout years of intense media attention, Sophie developed a reputation for staying out of public disputes and allowing her work to remain the primary focus. As discussions about the monarchy continued to dominate headlines, she appeared at events, supported causes, met with organisations, and carried out diplomatic responsibilities with little fanfare but consistent visibility. According to reports from royal insiders, this steady approach was not accidental. Supporters often argue that Sophie's strategy has been to let her actions speak for themselves rather than respond directly to every criticism. In a media environment filled with competing narratives, interviews, documentaries, and memoirs, her preference for a quieter style has frequently been highlighted as part of what sets her apart from other public figures connected to royal controversies. Another major development came when Prince Edward and Sophie officially became the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. The title carried enormous historical significance and represented far more than a routine change in royal status. For many royal watchers, the move symbolised continuity, service, and a connection to the legacy of Prince Philip, who had previously held the title for decades. The Edinburgh title has long been one of the most respected honours within the royal family. Because of its history and prestige, its reassignment naturally attracted widespread attention. Commentators immediately discussed what the change meant for the monarchy and how it reflected the evolving roles of different members of the royal family. Reports in the media also focused on comments attributed to friends and sources discussing Sophie's reaction to the title change. Some reports claimed that Sophie was pleased with the new arrangement and viewed it as an important milestone in her royal journey. Those stories generated headlines and fueled further discussion about relationships, hierarchy, and changing dynamics within the royal family. As with many insider reports, however, such claims remain based on unnamed sources rather than direct public statements. What is not disputed is the significance Sophie herself attached to becoming Duchess of Edinburgh. After receiving the title in 2023, as part of Prince Edward's birthday honours, she spoke about its importance and its connection to the late Queen and Prince Philip. For many royal supporters, the moment represented recognition of decades of service carried out largely away from the spotlight. The title change also coincided with ongoing discussions about the royal family's workload following Harry and Meghan's departure from royal duties. Some media reports suggested that remaining senior royals were being asked to take on greater responsibilities. When questioned about this topic, Sophie delivered a response that immediately caught attention. "What did people think we were doing beforehand?" she asked. The remark was brief, but many commentators viewed it as a reminder that she and Edward had been carrying out royal duties consistently for years. While public attention often focused on higher-profile figures, Sophie and Edward had continued attending engagements, supporting charities, representing the crown, and maintaining a full schedule of responsibilities behind the scenes. That response reflected a theme that appears throughout the documentary as well. Rather than portraying Sophie as someone seeking recognition, the programme presents her as a figure who steadily carried out her duties regardless of whether cameras were paying attention. Throughout changing eras, public controversies, and shifting royal dynamics, the documentary suggests that her influence often came not from dramatic statements, but from years of consistent service and quiet persistence. We have now arrived at the present chapter of this story with the release of royal peacemaker Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, which aired in May 2026 and immediately attracted attention from royal watchers, commentators, and the wider public. Rather than focusing on a single headline or controversy, the documentary pulls together years of royal history, personal relationships, and behind-the-scenes developments to present a much broader picture of Sophie's place within the monarchy. What makes the programme especially interesting is that its impact comes not only from what is directly stated, but also from the comparisons and contrasts it presents throughout its runtime. Viewers are shown how Sophie gradually established herself as a trusted and dependable figure within the royal family, moving from a newcomer facing her own challenges to someone many commentators now describe as one of the institution's most reliable members. A major focus of the documentary is Sophie's relationship with Catherine, Princess of Wales. The programme highlights how Sophie reportedly provided support, guidance, and encouragement during Catherine's early years in royal life. Through interviews, expert commentary, and archival footage, the documentary paints a picture of a relationship that steadily strengthened over time and became one of the most respected partnerships within the royal family. Royal Peacemaker. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, follows Sophie's journey over several decades, documenting how she earned trust and influence within an institution known for its traditions and expectations. The title itself carries significant meaning. At a time when royal headlines have often been dominated by public disagreements, memoirs, interviews, legal disputes, and competing narratives, the documentary presents Sophie as someone associated with stability, discretion, and continuity. Throughout the film, commentators repeatedly describe her as a calming presence who worked behind the scenes while avoiding many of the public battles that captured international attention. That image forms the foundation of the documentary's central message and helps explain why Sophie has become such a respected figure among many royal observers. The programme also revisits claims that Sophie offered support to Meghan Markle during her transition into royal life. According to the documentary, the two women ultimately followed very different paths. While Sophie remained within the institution and gradually expanded her responsibilities, Meghan and Prince Harry eventually stepped away from royal duties and built a new life in California. The documentary presents these developments as a significant point of contrast that shaped public perceptions in the years that followed. By placing these stories side by side, the film creates a narrative about different choices, different experiences, and different outcomes. Viewers are left to consider how those decisions influence not only individual lives, but also the broader story of the modern monarchy. This same theme appears in Sean Smith's 2025 biography, Sophie, Saving the Royal Family, which argues that Sophie's role has become increasingly important as the royal family has adapted to major changes in recent years. The book and documentary both suggest that her influence grew as the institution faced new challenges, placing her closer to the centre of royal life than many people ever expected. And within that story lies one particularly fascinating detail that continues to draw attention from royal insiders and commentators alike. Shortly after Meghan Markle made headlines with an appearance in Geneva, Sophie stepped onto a very different stage. As the global ambassador for the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness, the Duchess of Edinburgh addressed the World Health Assembly, speaking directly to health ministers, diplomats, and international leaders about the urgent challenge of preventable sight loss around the world. It was a high-profile engagement focused on a global issue affecting millions of people, and it once again placed Sophie in the spotlight for her public service work. For many royal observers, the timing created an interesting contrast. Here were two women whose lives had once been connected through the royal family, yet their public roles now looked very different. Meghan and Prince Harry built a new life outside the monarchy and pursued projects on their own terms, while Sophie remained within the institution and continued expanding her responsibilities as a senior working royal. The documentary repeatedly highlights these different journeys and invites viewers to consider how each path evolved over time. What stands out throughout this entire story is Sophie's approach to handling public attention. She did not spend years giving lengthy interviews about royal disagreements. She did not launch public attacks or engage in headline battles. Instead, her public image has largely been shaped through official engagements, charitable work, documentaries, brief comments, and a long record of service. Supporters argue that this consistency has become one of her greatest strengths and a major reason why she continues to enjoy such strong standing within the royal family. For years, Sophie was often viewed as one of the monarchy's quieter figures. She rarely generated the level of media coverage received by some of the family's biggest names. Yet as time passed, her influence appeared to grow steadily behind the scenes. Today, she holds the prestigious title of Duchess of Edinburgh, is frequently described as one of King Charles's most trusted family members, maintains a close working relationship with Catherine, Princess of Wales, and represents important causes on the global stage. That's a remarkable rise for someone many people once overlooked. The message presented by Royal Peacemaker is clear. Sophie is being portrayed as a stabilizing force during a period of major change for the monarchy. Whether viewers fully agree with that portrayal or not, the documentary leaves little doubt about how significant her role has become in recent years. After decades of steady work, she is no longer operating in the background. She is now one of the central figures in the story of the modern royal family. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Do you think Sophie handled the situation the right way? Did her quiet approach prove more effective than speaking out publicly, or should more have been said over the years? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future royal news, updates, and behind-the-scenes stories. Also, comment below if you've watched all the way to the end. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.